Opportunities don't vanish, they pass to someone else who was ready. This video reached you because something in your path lined up at the exact moment you stopped scrolling. Ever felt like life gives subtle hints, but you only notice them too late? This isn't one of those times. Stay sharp, what you're about to hear is what 99% will miss. Have you ever looked back and realized that a single moment could have changed everything, if only you had acted differently? Life often presents us with small, almost invisible windows of opportunity. These windows rarely arrive with grand announcements or flashing signs. Instead, they appear quietly, sometimes in the middle of ordinary days. The problem is, most people don't recognize them until they've already closed. Think about how a job offer, a sudden conversation, or an unexpected meeting can shift the entire direction of someone's life. Maybe it was a chance encounter that led to a lifelong friendship or a career opportunity that came disguised as a simple favor. These windows don't stay open forever. Just like a train that arrives on schedule, they wait for a short while and then they move on, whether you're ready or not. Timing often matters more than talent. There are countless talented individuals who remain unseen, not because they lack ability, but because they didn't step through their window when it appeared. On the other hand, there are people with fewer resources who transform their lives because they recognized and acted at the right moment. It's not about luck. It's about being alert, prepared, and willing to move when the opening presents itself. Society often tells us to wait for the perfect time. But perfect moments are illusions. Real opportunities don't arrive when everything is calm and organized. They often show up in messy, unpredictable situations. The ones who make it into that rare 1% are the people who notice these windows while everyone else is distracted, hesitant, or asleep. Start paying closer attention to small shifts in your environment, unexpected invitations, or gut feelings that nudge you towards something new. These are often the quiet signals of a window opening. When you learn to catch them in real time, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally, and that's when everything begins to change. Life doesn't always shout its messages. Sometimes it whispers. These whispers often come in the form of subtle, repeating signs that most people overlook. They're easy to dismiss as coincidences, but for the few who pay attention, they act like breadcrumbs leading towards something important. One of the most common microsigns is repetition. You might start seeing the same number sequence over and over on clocks, receipts, license plates, or building numbers. Or maybe a specific phrase or song keeps appearing in different places throughout your day. These aren't just random patterns, they're nudges designed to get your attention. Your brain notices these repetitions because your subconscious is picking up on something your conscious mind hasn't fully recognized yet. Another powerful sign comes through unexpected conversations. Maybe a friend casually mentions something that perfectly relates to a question you've been silently struggling with, or you overhear a stranger talking about a topic that mirrors your current situation. These moments often feel oddly aligned, as if life is slipping hints into everyday dialogue. Environmental disruptions can also act as warnings. Sudden delays, strange timing, or gut feelings that make you pause are often indicators that something is shifting around you. For example, you might be on your way to a meeting and suddenly feel a strong urge to take a different route, only to later learn that your original path would have led to trouble. These moments are easy to brush off, but they can carry real significance. Psychologically, this is linked to your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information and decides what deserves your attention. When you train yourself to notice patterns, your awareness sharpens. You start catching the signs that others ignore because they're too distracted, skeptical, or rushed. The key is not to become paranoid or overanalyze everything, but to develop a quiet attentiveness. When you start noticing these micro signs, you begin to move through life with a sense of alertness and trust. The few who do this position themselves to act at the right time, while others remain unaware that the universe was ever signaling them at all. Why do some people seem to catch life's critical signals while everyone else walks right past them? It's not that they're smarter or luckier, it's that they've trained their minds to stay awake when the majority is on autopilot. This is what I call the 1% awareness principle, the ability to notice and act on key moments that most people simply overlook. Most of us move through our days in a predictable rhythm, absorbed in thoughts, screens, and routines. We are physically present but mentally scattered. In that state, even the clearest signs can pass right in front of us, unnoticed. Meanwhile, the 1% operate differently. They don't let their attention be fully consumed by noise. They keep a part of their awareness zoomed out, scanning for shifts, patterns, or opportunities that others miss. Cognitive biases also play a huge role. Our brains are wired to filter out anything that doesn't fit our existing beliefs or expectations. If you believe life is random, you'll ignore subtle alignments. If you assume nothing important ever happens to you, you'll dismiss strange coincidences as meaningless. The 1%, however, question their automatic assumptions. They pause, they look twice. They ask, what if this means something? This doesn't require mystical powers. It's a skill, one built through observation, curiosity, and willingness to see beyond the obvious. For example, someone might overhear a conversation about a new project and immediately recognize how it aligns with their skills. Another person might hear the same thing and scroll on without a second thought. One opportunity captured, one missed forever. Awareness is rare because it demands presence. It requires stepping outside of mental autopilot and consciously noticing your surroundings. It's about keeping your attention sharp, not scattered. The few who master this mindset place themselves at the intersection of timing and readiness, and that's where extraordinary things happen. When you start living with this level of alertness, life stops feeling like a random sequence of events. You begin to sense the subtle order behind it all, and that's exactly what sets the 1% apart. One of the biggest reasons people miss their moment isn't a lack of signs, it's that they're too distracted to see them. We live in a world designed to steal attention. Every scroll, notification, and mindless habit gently pulls you away from the present moment. Over time, this becomes a comfortable trap. It feels harmless, but it slowly blinds you to opportunities passing right in front of you. Think about how easy it is to lose track of time on your phone. You tell yourself you'll check something for just a minute, and suddenly, an hour has disappeared. While your eyes are locked on a screen, life continues moving outside of it, doors opening, moments unfolding, signals flashing by unnoticed. This is how many people sleepwalk through the very moments that could change everything. Psychologically, this happens because of the variable reward loop, the same mechanism used in slot machines. Apps, social media, and entertainment constantly offer small, unpredictable rewards that keep your brain hooked. It feels comforting, even relaxing, but it's actually keeping you in a low awareness state, and opportunities rarely announce themselves loudly enough to break through that fog. Real-life examples of this are everywhere. Someone ignores an important message because they were too busy scrolling through memes. Another misses a conversation that could have opened a new door because they were mentally checked out. The signs were there, but comfort won. Spiritually, distractions can act as subtle tests. Moments that matter often arrive quietly, requiring alertness and willingness to pause the noise. If you can't step away from distractions long enough to notice what's happening around you, those windows will close while you're still scrolling. The 1% learn to notice when they're slipping into distraction and pull themselves back. They value awareness more than temporary comfort. They understand that every moment spent distracted is a moment they might miss, a life-changing signal. The difference isn't that opportunities don't come to the distracted, it's that they pass by unseen. One of the most powerful skills the 1% develop is learning to tell the difference between intuition and impulse. At first glance, they can feel similar, both arise suddenly, both push you toward action, but they come from entirely different places. Intuition is like a quiet, steady voice that guides you. Impulse is a loud, fleeting spark that often fades as quickly as it appears. Knowing which one is speaking can determine whether you make a wise move or a rash one. Intuition is subtle. It doesn't shout, it nudges. It often shows up as a calm inner knowing, a gentle pull, or a gut feeling that something is either right or off. For example, you might meet someone and immediately sense that they're important to your path, even if you do know why. Or you might feel uneasy about a decision that, on paper, seems perfect. Intuition usually gives you space. It lingers long enough for you to feel its consistency. Impulse, on the other hand, is fast, loud, and emotionally charged. It thrives on urgency, excitement, or fear. It's the sudden urge to buy something you don't need, say something you'll regret, or jump into a situation without clarity. Impulses can lead to valuable experiences sometimes, but more often, they're short-term reactions rather than long-term guidance. A simple way to tell the difference is to notice how your body reacts. Intuition feels grounded. It creates a sense of quiet confidence or gentle warning. Impulse feels like a spike, a quick burst of emotion that can cloud judgment. If you wait a little while, intuition remains steady, while impulse usually fades or changes direction. Psychologically, intuition is your subconscious mind communicating with your conscious awareness. It picks up on patterns, microsignals, and stored experiences that your logical brain hasn't fully processed yet. Impulse, meanwhile, often comes from emotional triggers, ego, or external pressures. For example, imagine you're offered an unexpected opportunity. Intuition might give you a calm sense that this is significant, even if you don't have all the answers yet. Impulse might push you to say yes immediately just because it sounds exciting or because you don't want to miss out. One is quiet wisdom, the other is reaction. The key is not to suppress either, but to learn to pause. That pause, even just a few seconds, gives you the clarity to sense where the signal is coming from. The 1% don't just act quickly, they act intelligently. They know when to trust their gut and when to wait for the emotional wave to pass. This difference alone can completely change the path you take. Sometimes it's not the huge, dramatic decisions that change your life. It's the tiny ones. A single yes, a single pause, a single turn down a different street can redirect everything. These are what I call quantum moments, small, seemingly ordinary choices that create massive ripple effects over time. Most people don't realize they're standing in such a moment until they look back years later and say, that was the turning point. Think about it. Missing a train leads to meeting someone you were never supposed to meet. Saying yes to an unfamiliar task introduces you to the mentor who shifts your entire path. Taking 5 extra seconds to listen to your gut keeps you out of a situation that could have gone terribly wrong. These decisions might look insignificant on the surface, but they operate like dominoes. Once one falls, it sets off a chain reaction that alters the entire structure of your future. From a psychological perspective, this connects to how our brains struggle with exponential effects. We understand immediate consequences, but we often underestimate how one small choice compounds over weeks, months, and years. It's like taking a single step off your current path. At first, the difference is barely noticeable, but miles down the line, you end up in an entirely different place. Spiritually, quantum moments can feel divinely timed. They often arrive without warning in ordinary settings. There's no loud music, no flashing lights, just a quiet nudge to make a decision that seems minor. The 1% catch these nudges, pause, and choose with intention. The 99% rush through them, unaware that something bigger was at play. A classic example is someone almost deciding not to attend an event, but going anyway, and meeting the person who changes everything. Or someone choosing to take a detour on a whim, only to avoid an accident they never knew was coming. These moments don't feel cosmic when they happen. They feel like everyday decisions. But later, when the story unfolds, you can trace the entire chain of events back to that one instant. The difference between drifting and directing your life often comes down to recognizing these quantum moments as they happen. That's why awareness matters so deeply. When you're present, even your smallest choices carry power. The 1% understand this. They treat even ordinary decisions with quiet attention, knowing any moment could be the one that changes everything. There are moments in life that feel too perfectly timed to be random. A stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. A symbol keeps appearing everywhere you go. You bump into someone you haven't seen in years, right when you were thinking about them. These moments are called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that often act like divine nudges, pointing you toward a specific path or decision. These nudges can show up in many forms. It might be a song that plays at the exact moment you're questioning something, carrying lyrics that speak directly to your situation. It could be a recurring symbol, a feather, a number sequence, a phrase, appearing so often that you can't help but notice. or it might come through a sudden encounter that shifts your perspective in an instant. On the surface, these seem like coincidences. But when patterns keep repeating in ways that feel personal, it's often more than that. Psychologically, this happens because your subconscious is constantly scanning your environment, picking up patterns and signals that your conscious mind might overlook. When something aligns strongly with your inner state, your brain flags it as meaningful. Spiritually, many interpret these alignments as messages, reminders that you're being guided, even when you can't see the full picture yet. Throughout history, different traditions have acknowledged synchronicities in their own way. Some see them as signs from God, angels, or ancestors. Others view them as the universe aligning circumstances to lead you forward. Whatever your belief system, the effect is the same. Synchronicities often appear when you're at a turning point, nudging you to pay closer attention. The challenge is to discern genuine signs from wishful thinking. Not every random occurrence carries meaning, but real synchronicities usually carry a quiet sense of clarity or resonance. They don't feel forced. They land softly, but they stay with you. For example, if you keep encountering a particular opportunity through unrelated people, places, or events, it may be more than coincidence. It may be a door opening. The 1% don't dismiss these nudges as just random. They pause, observe, and reflect. They ask themselves, what is this moment trying to show me? Instead of rushing past, they hold space for meaning. By doing so, they often step into aligned opportunities that others never even notice. Recognizing synchronicities isn't about chasing signs everywhere. It's about staying open enough to notice when life is speaking, and when it does, being willing to listen. Opportunities rarely disappear with a loud crash. They fade quietly when we hesitate. One of the most painful lessons people face is realizing that the window was there, but they froze. Maybe out of fear, maybe out of doubt, maybe because they were waiting for everything to feel just right. But hesitation has a cost, and it's often higher than taking a leap and failing. Think back to a moment when you sensed you should have acted. Maybe you felt a strong pull to speak up, apply for something, reach out to someone, or change direction. But instead, you waited. Days passed, the situation shifted, and the chance was gone. The sting that follows isn't just about the lost opportunity, it's about knowing that you held yourself back. That's what makes hesitation so powerful. It's not what others do to you, it's what you do to yourself by standing still when life was asking you to move. Real stories illustrate this clearly. Someone receives a job offer but takes too long to decide, only for the position to be filled by someone else. Another person meets someone they feel instantly connected to but never says anything. Years later, they still wonder what if. Sometimes, all it takes is a few seconds of uncertainty to let a door quietly close. From a psychological perspective, hesitation is often driven by the fear of regret. Ironically, in trying to avoid making a wrong move, people end up creating the very regret they were running from. We convince ourselves we need more time, more signs, or a better moment, but windows don't stay open indefinitely. Life moves, opportunities shift, people move on. Spiritually, hesitation can also be seen as a test. When something significant appears, it often requires a step of faith. The 1% understand this. They don't make reckless decisions, but they know when a door is open and they step through it before it closes. They trust that clarity often comes after movement, not before it. Hesitation doesn't always ruin lives dramatically. More often, it shapes them quietly. It leaves people stuck in cycles of almost applied, almost said something, almost took the chance. And over time, these almosts build into a life full of missed moments. The key isn't to rush blindly, it's to recognize when hesitation is driven by fear rather than wisdom. Acting in uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it's often the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. The 1% pay that price willingly, the 99% pay it in regret. One of the biggest reasons people miss crucial signs is something called pattern blindness, the natural tendency of the brain to filter out information that doesn't fit its expectations. In other words, you often fail to notice what's right in front of you simply because you're not looking for it. Opportunities, warnings, and meaningful signals can pass by unnoticed, not because they're hidden, but because your mind is tuned to a different frequency. A classic example of this is the invisible gorilla experiment. In this famous psychological study, participants were asked to watch a video of people passing basketballs and count the number of passes. In the middle of the video, a person in a gorilla suit walks through the scene, pounds their chest, and walks away. Shockingly, around half of the viewers don't notice the gorilla at all. Why? Because their focus was locked on counting passes, their brain filtered out everything else, even something as absurd as a gorilla. This is exactly how life works. When your mind is fixated on routines, worries, or distractions, you can miss signs that seem obvious in hindsight. For example, someone might repeatedly encounter a person who could open a new door for them, but fail to recognize their significance because they're too focused on their own stress. Another might overlook a small clue that would have prevented a major setback, simply because their attention was elsewhere. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, and to protect you from overload, it selectively filters what it thinks matters. The problem is, those filters are based on your beliefs, habits, and expectations, not necessarily on what's truly important. If you believe that meaningful moments are rare, your mind won't even bother flagging them. But if you train your awareness to look beyond the obvious, your mental filters adjust, and suddenly, you start seeing what you used to miss. Spiritually, pattern blindness is like walking through life with a fogged-up lens. The signs were always there, you just didn't notice them. The 1% sharpen their perception by deliberately stepping out of autopilot. They question their assumptions. They observe without rushing to categorize everything. They allow themselves to notice what stands out, even if it doesn't fit their current story. The moment you begin to break pattern blindness, your reality changes. Subtle details start to pop. You catch clues before they fade. You see connections between events that once looked random. And in those moments, life stops being something that just happens to you. It becomes something you actively read and respond to. Most people live their lives completely immersed in their thoughts, emotions, and routines. They react to situations the moment they arise, without ever stepping back to observe what's happening. The observer shift is the powerful practice of stepping out of autopilot and becoming the watcher of your own life, noticing your surroundings, your reactions, and the subtle cues unfolding around you. This shift is what allows the 1% to catch signals that others miss. Think of it like watching a movie. When you're fully absorbed in a scene, it's easy to miss small details in the background. But if you rewatch the same scene as a detached observer, you notice hidden objects, background characters, or foreshadowing that you didn't catch before. Life works the same way. When you're fully inside your reactions, your vision narrows. But when you step back, even for a moment, your awareness expands and patterns become clear. Psychologically, this shift is linked to metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. It's not about detaching emotionally forever, but about creating enough space between stimulus and response to actually see what's happening. For example, instead of reacting immediately to a sudden change, you take a breath, mentally step back, and observe your surroundings like a scene unfolding. This pause often reveals details that a reactive mind would miss. Spiritually, many traditions describe this state as witness consciousness, the part of you that calmly observes without judgment. It's where intuition speaks more clearly because it isn't being drowned out by emotional noise. When you access this observer mode, even for a few seconds a day, life slows down. You notice micro-expressions on someone's face that hint at their true feelings. You catch strange coincidences in timing. You sense when something clicks or doesn't. The 1% cultivate this ability deliberately. They practice pausing before reacting, reflecting instead of rushing, and observing themselves in real time. Over time, this becomes second nature. They can walk into a situation and immediately sense the undercurrents others overlook, not because they're special, but because they're watching with eyes wide open. Making the observer shift isn't complicated. It's about building the habit of awareness. Start by taking small pauses during your day. Notice your surroundings without judgment. Watch your own thoughts pass by like clouds instead of clinging to them. Little by little, this shift transforms you from a passive participant in life to an active perceiver, someone who doesn't just move through moments, but sees them. And that simple shift is often what separates the ones who catch the signal in time from those who miss it entirely. Fear and doubt are two of the biggest gatekeepers standing between you and decisive action. They don't always arrive as roaring voices telling you to stop. More often, they appear as quiet, reasonable-sounding thoughts that convince you to delay, question yourself, or shrink back just enough for the moment to pass. The 1% don't live without fear or doubt. They simply understand how these forces work and refuse to let them dictate their choices. From an evolutionary perspective, fear is designed to keep us safe. Our brains are wired to detect potential danger and push us towards safety, even if the danger isn't physical. This is why even opportunities that could change your life often feel terrifying. Your mind sees the unknown and tries to protect you by making you hesitate. Doubt, meanwhile, acts like fear's quieter cousin. It doesn't stop you outright. It makes you second-guess, overanalyze, or wait for the right time. Think about how many opportunities slip away because of these two forces. Someone gets the chance to speak in front of the right person, but convinces themselves they're not ready. Another has a clear gut feeling, but talks themselves out of it because they fear being judged. These moments rarely feel dramatic in real time. They feel like small, logical decisions. But later, you realize it wasn't logic. It was fear in disguise. Spiritually, fear and doubt often show up just before a breakthrough. It's almost as if life is asking, do you trust yourself enough to move forward? Many people misinterpret that resistance as a sign to stop, when in reality, it's a sign they're standing at the edge of something significant. The 1% handle this differently. They don't wait for fear to disappear before they act. They acknowledge it, understand it, and move forward anyway. They know fear is part of the process, not proof that something is wrong. They treat doubt as information, something to examine, not obey. By doing this, they keep themselves from becoming trapped in cycles of hesitation and regret. A powerful way to overcome these forces is to reframe them. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if this changes everything?" Instead of letting doubt talk you out of action, let curiosity lead you forward. Courage isn't about having no fear, it's about choosing movement despite it. And in those crucial moments, that single choice can be the difference between stepping into your window of opportunity or watching it close from the sidelines. Opportunities don't wait for long debates in your mind. They favor those who know how to act when it counts. This doesn't mean being reckless or impulsive. It means developing the ability to make clear, confident decisions in the moment without letting fear, doubt, or overthinking block your path. The 1% don't always have everything figured out, but when a door opens, they walk through it. Think about how many chances disappear simply because someone took too long to act. A job offer is accepted by someone else. A person you wanted to talk to walks away. A sudden intuitive nudge fades because you told yourself you think about it later. Real-time action is what separates observers from participants. You can spot every sign in the world, but if you don't move when it matters, the signal goes to waste. Psychologically, this ties into how our brains handle decision-making under pressure. Most people fall into analysis paralysis. They loop endlessly between options, seeking perfect certainty. But certainty rarely arrives before action. It usually appears after. High performers and highly aware individuals understand this. They focus on identifying the core of a decision quickly rather than drowning in endless what-ifs. One powerful method is using micro-commitments. Instead of waiting until everything is clear to make a huge leap, they take a small but concrete step in the direction of the opportunity. Send the message. Say yes to the meeting. Block out time. These quick moves keep momentum alive and prevent hesitation from creeping in. Spiritually, acting in real time is an act of trust. It's trusting your preparation, intuition, and the timing that placed that moment in front of you. Life's rare windows often don't reopen in the same way once they close. The 1% understand this, which is why they've trained themselves to respond when others are still hesitating. This doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means recognizing the weight of a moment and responding accordingly. The habit of real-time action builds confidence over time. Each decisive step reinforces your ability to trust yourself. And with each step, you become more aligned with opportunities that match your path. When you learn to act in real time, you stop letting life slip past in delayed decisions. You become someone who doesn't just notice the moment, you move with it. And that's often all it takes to shift from almost to actually. Awareness isn't something that happens once, it's a skill you sharpen continuously. The truth is, not every window of opportunity comes with a loud sign, and not every signal will be clear the first time you encounter it. That's why preparation matters. If you train your mind to stay ready, you won't have to scramble when the next moment appears. You'll recognize it instantly and know how to respond. A simple yet powerful way to build this readiness is by strengthening daily awareness. This can start with brief moments throughout the day where you intentionally slow down and observe your surroundings. Notice details you'd normally overlook: faces, conversations, repeating symbols, changes in the atmosphere. Over time, this habit sharpens your perception, making it easier to catch subtle cues that once slipped by. Journaling is another practical tool. Writing down unusual signs, coincidences, or gut feelings helps you see patterns that aren't obvious in real time. For example, if you keep noting the same theme, person, or number appearing in different situations, it might point toward something meaningful unfolding. By documenting these moments, you train your brain to value them, and what you value, you naturally notice more often. Stillness practices, like meditation or mindful breathing, are equally important. In a noisy world, quieting your mind is like cleaning a foggy window. It clears the static so your intuition can be heard more clearly. The 1% often make stillness a regular part of their lives, not as a spiritual luxury, but as a strategic necessity for sharper perception. Another key element is predeciding your principles. When you already know your values and priorities, you don't waste precious time figuring them out during critical moments. You act faster because your inner compass is set. This way, when an opportunity arrives, you're not distracted by confusion, you're focused and ready. Spiritually, this preparation is about staying in tune. Life has a rhythm, and when you keep your awareness active, you start moving with it rather than against it. You stop chasing signs frantically and instead develop quiet confidence that when the right moment arrives, you'll recognize it. Preparation doesn't mean waiting anxiously, it means living attentively. Every small habit, journaling, reflection, pausing, observing, adds up to a sharper, calmer, more responsive mind. So when the next nudge comes, you won't doubt it or overlook it. You'll simply smile, step forward, and meet it. Every opportunity has a lifespan. Some doors stay open for years, others for mere seconds, but they all have one thing in common: they don't wait forever. The closing door is life's quiet reminder that awareness alone isn't enough, action and timing are everything. If you keep hesitating, overthinking, or assuming the moment will come back around, eventually you'll hear that subtle click as the door shuts. For many people, this closing isn't dramatic. There's no loud announcement, no sudden collapse. It's gradual, a slow fading of possibility. Someone who once wanted to collaborate moves on. A chance that seemed endless is given to someone else. The inner nudge that once felt loud becomes faint and eventually disappears. Later, you look back and realize that was it. That was the moment. This doesn't mean you should live in fear of missing out. It means recognizing that life rewards those who are awake and courageous. Every person encounters rare, transformative openings at some point. The difference between the 1% and the 99% isn't that the 1% get more chances. It's that they see them, trust them, and step through while others are still wondering if the handle will turn by itself. Psychologically, allowing doors to close repeatedly builds a pattern of regret and passivity. Spiritually, it creates loops. You find yourself facing similar situations again and again until you learn to respond differently. Life doesn't punish, it teaches through repetition. If you miss a door once, another may appear later, but it won't be the same door. The 1% understand this deeply. They don't wait for perfect clarity before they move. They know that clarity often blooms on the other side of the threshold, not before stepping through it. They accept that some uncertainty is part of growth, and they choose to act while the door is still open. As we reach the end of this message, let this be your reminder: doors don't stay open forever. When one appears, trust the timing. Listen to the nudges. Look for the patterns. Quiet the noise. Step out of hesitation. Because while most people are still staring at the door, the few who walk through it are already building the life others will later call lucky. Opportunities favor the awake. Trust your timing, act boldly, and step through the doors life opens. Stay alert, stay ready. Like, share, subscribe to Quantum Veil, and comment, I choose awareness.